Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another episode of Bay Muslim Media. My name is Ahmed Khaleel, and this month we'll be covering Black History Month from another perspective. And so this evening, we're joined by two very special guests. In these last few days of Black History Month, I wanted to conclude on this alternative and emphasize that, yes, this conversation will be from another perspective on Black History Month. So both of our guests have served as community activists and leaders. Both of our guests have also diverse backgrounds and have advocated on a slightly different level, but are both powerhouses in the community activism. On this episode of Bay Muslim Media, we're talking about Black History Month. And so please welcome me in joining our first guest, Dr. Marty Casey, who joins us from, where are you joining us from again? I know you're traveling.
Well, I'm back home now, St. Louis, Missouri.
In St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Excellent. And so, and next we have also our next community activist, who is also a founder of Al-Moed Foundation, based in Oakland, California, which sponsors the Eating Right Project, which feeds the hungry, our seniors, and the homeless, and also curbside communities. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to our sister Amelah El-Amin.
Wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Khalil, and peace. I'm sending the greetings of peace to Dr. Marty Casey.
Amen.
Thank you, sister.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you both. And so, what I'd like to do is kind of help shape this for those who are at home and put things into perspective. For everyone at home, welcome to our episode of Bay Muslim Media, where today's topic, as we finalize Black History Month, this is Black History Month from another perspective. So, what I'd like to do before we really kick things off is, Dr. Casey, if it's okay, I understand that, when we had our behind the scenes the other day, we learned that you were a featured cast member in the film known as The Mink Slide, which is a 1946 Civil War era film based in Columbia, Tennessee during the Civil Uprising. Can you tell us a little bit about that really quick?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for asking. Yes, I just returned from Columbia, Tennessee. And in 1946, there was an uprising that took place. So the movie is actually based on a true story. We've shot the 12 minutes chart so far, but the full feature film we will continue to cast, and we're going to shoot the rest of it. So the good news is that they're in negotiations so that can even happen in the very area that these things took place. And what was amazing was to be there and to still meet a lot of the family members of those who were there in 1946 and what happened. It was all over the radio. Believe it or not, it was all over a radio. There was a Black lady and her son, and I played the mother of the son, and he was recently returned from the war, and they had taken the radio to be fixed in what they call up top. So it's up top and it was at the bottom. So at the bottom is where the Black people lived on East 8th Street. And up top was where, all of the bigger homes and the whites lived. And so they was taking the radio up top to be fixed, and it was not fixed at all. As a matter of fact, the radio was lost. They had to then find it. They had given it to someone else. They had to get it back. Then they were charged the amount.
Let's not give our audience too many spoilers. We want to let them come.
Well, okay. Well, I will get to the very point. The point was, because of the disrespect that took place, there was a huge fight that broke out, and this Black man and this white man fought on the streets after falling through a plate glass window. And in 1946, if you can imagine what that looked like, and when other whites walked by, it turned into a big brawl. Yeah. And they ended up in jail. 28 people were actually arrested and had to go to trial. So because I don't want to give it all away, I'm going to leave it there. But when I tell you, they had a video where the daughter, it seems like we have a little bit of some feedback coming here. I don't know if it's.
Is there something echoing?
Some feedback. Are you hearing some feedback? Anyone else?
No.
I am.
Okay. So yeah, we're hearing some feedback. But however, what happened was that they did a video. That one of the daughters did the video of the man that actually had got into the fight with her father before he died a couple of years ago, and to see the real footage of him telling his own story, it was riveting. It was really, I mean, it was heart-wrenching to hear it. And I just highly recommend that we continue to tell our stories. And
Absolutely.
and if as a matter of fact, I want to challenge, since this is Black History, I want to challenge everyone whose parents are still alive. Get your phone. We have a recorder on our phone. There is absolutely no reason you can't turn that recorder on and tell your mom or your grandmother or your grandfather or your great great uncle to just tell me what it was like when you grew up.
That's
Where
right.
did you grow up? Tell us when, and tell us what it was like in comparison to where we are right now.
You know, and that's a good narrative for, I think, where we're going to be shaping the show. And you know, where were we in Black History Month then versus where we stand now, the impact of change. And I know that we'll also get into learning more about Moed Foundation, which has also been very impactful and very forward moving in terms of feeding the hungry. And I think that's, we talked about also offline, is this is one of the essences that gets us closer together and talking to our neighbors. So why don't we go ahead and dive right in? I'd love to learn a little bit more about you both and share that with our audience as well. And again, based on the discussion of having Black History Month then and now, you know, we've witnessed so much in our current days. And, you know, we've seen the loss of Breonna Taylor, Ahmed Arbery, Philando Castillo, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin. You know, Stephon Clark was killed not too far from here. You know, the list goes on and on. And so in your opinion, I'll send this over to Sister Amelah. In your opinion, has today's legal system accepted that we're a multiracial society?
Has today's system accepted that we are a multi-racial society? No. So, I mean, no. Today's system has not accepted. Let me change that. I think that today's system knows that we're a multiracial society, but is today's system really ready to accommodate the other races? No.
I think that's the question. I think that's really the question. Are we ready to be accommodated? Dr. Marty, do you have any feedback on that?
No, I totally agree. I think what I pulled from that is the word accepted. There has never been any acceptance.
Yes.
There's never been any invite. There's never really hasn't even been any level of equalness.
Right.
So when you don't have those things, I mean, how can you be accepted?
So what is the cause of this, do you think? Sister Amelah and I, we're in the same state of California, and you know, we call this kind of like the melting pot. There's so much diversity here. You know, how would you compare that to your state? I mean, do you feel that there's diversity and inclusion within your state that would help support a lot of what we're trying to do as in terms of activism?
I feel like the words are overused, but I really can't necessarily say that I see enough to where I can point out to you and actually say, oh, now here, when we do this, this is where I can actually see. No, I can't. And I think that is one of the reasons why we're still battling with the temperament of what's happening around the nation. Seeing so many names. I mean, we're calling out, you called out that list of names almost like the sick and shut in church, the list, you know what I mean? And then these are deceased loved ones of family members who had to bury their loved ones simply because of hatred and racism and injustice. And it's not anything that's new.
You're absolutely right. It's not new. And, you know,
Yeah.
it causes me to think, you know, and here we are, you know, what was it, 3 days ago, a tragedy struck once again in a story dubbed as Walking While Black. There was a shocking videotape of an unarmed black man by the name of Kurt Reinhold, who was shot and killed by police here in California for allegedly jaywalking. You know, so when we talk about, you know, this taking place in Black History Month, let me ask Sister Amelah, the impact of Black History Month for me this year, and I'll ask you. I didn't get to celebrate that same experience of going down to the steps of the Capitol and listening to the MLK speech on the steps. Has that somewhat lessened the impact on what Emancipation Proclamation rolling in this year and the impact of Black History Month? Does that somewhat impact in your impression of what we have this month or this year for Black History Month?
So honestly, I feel like we're in a different time. I feel like we, if we want to shift, I feel like we're in a place to shift, right? And so, though we weren't able to take part in those traditional things that we've taken part in, Juneteenth, there have been a lot of things that we didn't get to do this year that we usually do as a culture, right?
Right.
In addition to that, we're also, what has happened this year has allowed us to start having conversations that we weren't having. We weren't having those conversations in the outer community. We weren't having those conversations in the Islamic community. We weren't having those conversations. Everybody was kind of, even though we know about Oscar Grant, we know about Trayvon Martin, we know about Tamir Rice, we know about Breonna Taylor, like we all know, but we were still kind of moving around like, yeah, well, it's better, it's better. And then we watch a man die in front of our eyes while people are not, forget the person that's fighting for his life, but you have people standing in front of you saying, get up off of him.
Right. Dr. Marty, I'll ask you to chime in on that. Sister Amelah says, we know of these things, and absolutely we do. They've been in our face. We've been challenged by them. We're not having the conversations that basically moves the ball, in a sense. And so, would you say, is it safe to say that, some of the trauma that we've had to go through, and it is trauma, can we compare this to PTSD? Is there something that we should be doing in terms of racial trauma to help us experience an advantage to begin healing? What type of feedback do you have to Sister Amelah's feedback on, we know, but what should we be doing?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Yes, PTSD is a form of trauma, and we have been experiencing what I call collective trauma. And collective trauma is when we as a society at the same time have witnessed an action or an event take place that caused a lot of hurt and pain, and you didn't necessarily actually have to be in that area to be an eyewitness to it, to touch it or what have you, or stand within a certain distance from it in order to feel the impact of it. And I just personally believe that when George Floyd, when we all, even days later, watched the video take place, and it felt as if we were literally standing on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Couldn't reach him to help him. That's the way it hit me. That's the way that I believe it hit many others. And even for me, and when I think about collective trauma, you also have to stop and think about what are the triggers as you seeing that take place. So for us as Blacks, we have seen so much of this that we're being triggered over and over and over and over again. There has been no time to even stop to heal, because as soon as we think we have, because you never get over, but as soon as you think that you have placed it somewhere where I can cope and go on, and I'm going to woosah, and what my business is ungunning, and I've ungun this. Here we go again. Here we go again. We've been impacted again and again and again.
Yeah.
And even on January 6th, you didn't see anyone storm into the Capitol that looked like us. You did.
No.
You did it. but it still impacted us because we were triggered by it, because the very first thing that we saw was, had that been us, I don't
It would have
think
been I said this in our last show.
It would have been a
step down.
bloodbath. We
it
don't
would
even need
have.
to pretend. It would have been a bloodbath.
You know,
So,
I want to take this
trauma
moment
is
and remind
transferable.
everyone about
So,
1995. If everyone remembers what took place in 1995, it was called the Million Man March, where literally more than 1 million African Americans marched peacefully onto the nation's capital. 1 million versus the, I don't know, 70,000 that were there on the 6th. 1 million of us marched, not one person arrested, not one person killed, not one violent assault, no break-ins. And you know, this kind of reminds me of, you know, Dr. Marty, you talked about the Stacey Abrams model, or the effect of what that is, and it kind of makes me think of that a little bit. Do you want to highlight on that a little bit, and why you think that this is the effect in contrast why we're going this way?
And okay, can you specify that, be a little bit more specific?
Yeah, so in terms of, you know, the effect of, you know, if you look at what took place at the Capitol versus how we marched on the Capitol, and that perception of what it is,
what timing? So timing is everything. And so when you think about the Million Man March, there was I believe, or at least though the murders that had been highlighted in with national attention did not start until after the Million Man March. Now, I said highlighted because they have never stopped killing us, but it just wasn't necessarily with a spotlight put on it to where this becomes media news in terms of the national news. I believe in the same tone that the Oscar Grants, the Michael Browns, and Breonna Taylors, and everyone, if we then tried to go do the Million Man March, I don't believe we will have the same outcome today. Like we just marched in COVID. We just did for Dr. King's 57th anniversary. We were there on the Capitol steps, and I'm gonna give you an example. Now this happened, and I seen it with my own eyes. I experienced this. So here we are, all of the mothers and families, mothers and fathers and family members of the movement. And when I say that, these are those who family members have actually have been killed. Yes. And we know the names, right? So we're all here waiting, and I was there with Leslie McFadden, which is Mike Brown's mother. Trayvon Martin's mom was there. All of them were here. It was hot that day, August 28th. Never forget it. We're standing here, just standing around. It's so hot. Nobody's doing anything but just standing there. They called in the National Guards and basically tapped the Capitol, the Lincoln Memorial security on the shoulder and said, basically, y'all can go home. We're here now.
Oh, wow.
And they came in with, I have a picture, so I'm gonna pull it up here in a little bit later in the show and show it to you. But here they come in with all this tactical gear. And we like, what's going on? Did something happen? We didn't hear nothing. We not saying anything. Everything's peaceful. And they said that they got called in because it looked like we were intimidating the Lincoln statue.
Oh, the statue. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I try not to implement my own thoughts or emotions about things, but that one kind of caught me off guard. Sister Amelah, did you have any feedback or thoughts on that? Because before I go forward, that's a little bit.
No, yeah, I do have some feedback on that. So one of the thing is, and that's one of the things that we want our audience to get, right? Is the systematic racism, right? This way that Black folks, Black people, African American, whatever we're going to use, whatever the term is, and whoever's household, right? That we're deemed so violent, you know what I mean, and such a threat that we could actually threaten a statue. Imagine. I mean, I'm just, I mean, like how disrespectful.
It's absolutely absurd
to even say to another human being, We're here because you intimidated the statue.
How dare you obstruct that marble?
How
Right.
dare
Don't do
you?
that.
But I don't want you to stop there, because now, had that been a man, a human, we'd have all got rubber bulleted, all kinds of stuff. If an actual human had said, if one of his descendants, let's just say that.
Well, you know what's interesting about that, and I always like to put things in contrast and comparison, but you know,
You showing us a picture?
I'm trying to see.
Oh, of the tactical gear.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was coming in. Yeah.
So while you were intimidating the Lincoln Memorial, we still have 375 plus Confederate monuments spread across the United States in celebration of slave owners. These people are enshrined and memorialized as heroes. And, you know, one would think that, you know, when you see these things, they kind of serve for the African-American community as harsh reminders of our
They're intimidating.
They're very intimidating. And I brought that up because that's the word that's being described of us gathering in a public place to look at a monument, is that it's intimidating. And so while we're on that topic, I have to ask, I kind of switched lanes here, but should we be, as a people, should we be forcing the removal of such monuments so that we can finally bring in a wake of a Black History Month that does not come with these type of harsh realities?
You know, I'm going to be honest about this because I kind of sit on the fence, and I'm going to tell you why. I feel like they do need to be removed from just being out in the open in the public and knowing that at any given time someone can walk by, be triggered, be traumatized by that. I think that is a real big issue. But I do have an issue with just completely tearing them down and destroying them, because then it's almost like we're getting rid of the evidence.
That's right.
Wow.
And so I feel like there should be almost a specific place, a museum, where if you choose to enlighten yourself and others about the history, but being honest about the history, who they were, where these pieces were even located and removed, and why. I believe that's part of the healing. That's how we start to move the needle and actually walk forward towards history versus feeling like we're going backwards.
Yes.
So I do believe it needs to be removed. Destroyed, no. Place, yes.
Sister Amelah, are you a little bit? Are you on the same page, or am I the only?
Yes, I agree with you, because there has to be some accountability. See, you know, it's like one of the things that we want to do is alter history. Well, it wasn't, and it didn't, and well, maybe. No. This is what happened. This is how it happened. And guess what? It wasn't removed until 2020, or it wasn't removed until 2021. And that was the beginning of us saying out loud, this was wrong. We wronged.
Right.
We were wrong. And we need to be accountable. We need to acknowledge it. And we definitely don't need to have it displayed in public like it's a trophy.
Absolutely.
The things that are portrayed in public should be honorable things. There shouldn't be things like, I mean, if people shouldn't intimidate a statue, then by golly, could the statue not intimidate the people? We have a
How profound is that? That belongs on a T-shirt, and nobody would understand it but us three, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel silly for asking this question because, you know, Sister Amelah used the word a few minutes ago, you know, systemic. And so, you know, while we're talking about these monuments and the move to try and progress ourselves through Black History Month and finally make this a time to where we have recognition away from the stigma, you know, some Black professionals have expressed to me that that their success in today's society still provides them a very low visibility. And some, you know, people within, you know, good opportunities, or they call it good opportunities, are still within that low visibility. And so in light of all of our progress, do you truly feel that we are systemically being suppressed when it comes to employment, housing, legal factors, or beyond? Is that really the case in what's happening? And if so, what do we do?
So is it so? Yes, it's so. Ask my neighbor who took forever to get a laptop from his school when they went virtual. Yet I know children who had laptops at home before they decided to go virtual that came from their school. You know, if we talk about the music and the electives that's available in the schools,
Yeah.
you know, in one neighborhood into a different neighborhood. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I would say absolutely, you know, and Dr. Marty, feel free to chime in on this, but when it comes to primarily Black inner city schools, you know, I think Sister Amelah already took the words out of my mouth. I've always felt that the curriculum is just a little bit less than what's accessible to others. Do you feel that the curriculum that's used in inner city African-American schools is somewhat obsolete or has been obsolete for some time now?
It has been. And part of that is that, you know, even when I believe they even allowed us to be educated, it was never for our benefit.
Mm-mm.
It was for theirs. It was so that, again, they could place us in situations to have us do more types of work and be able to effectively do it again, where we could build this country on our backs. So there was a certain level of communication that needed to happen. So I don't ever believe that it was intended for us to be overly educated. And so those same systems that were put in place back then are still the mindset that we carry today. But I don't want to, I don't ever want to, and I hope that this can be respected because I try to always speak from the heart. But I don't ever want to give my enemy or my oppressor so much credit to the point that it causes me not to stand up and do the work. I want our educators who are teaching our Black boys and Black girls come together.
I never do this. I apologize to everyone who's watching. Please excuse me. I never have interruptions in our show. Please forgive me. If Dr. Marty and Sister Amelah, if you can carry this just for 2 minutes for me, I'm very sorry.
No worries. No worries. We're a village.
Yes, things happen. So, you know, Queen Amelah, what I was stating is that I believe that at this point we understand where the traps are, and we know who they're trying to trap, and we even know the why. And if we continue to spend so much time on that, I feel like we're not really preparing ourselves to actually move forward and do better. At what point can our educators come together? Because the information that's being received is being a lot of times created by us. So then why can't we come together and use these social media platforms to share the information so that our children can be educated on the latest systems and information? I just feel like it's time for us to also do something different.
I agree with you. The only thing that I'm going to push back on is when you say those who are educating our children. A lot of times those who are educating our children are not us, because us are not being hired in the schools. I sat and talked to an African-American principal, and when he said how many Black teachers that he had interviewed in his, I think it was 10 years of being a principal, that's not who we're not teaching us. You know what I mean? And so one of the things we're either going to have to create institutions so that we can teach us, because if we keep sending them to the public institutions, we're not there to teach them for whatever reason. And you know what I mean? And again, you're right, Dr. Casey. You're right. We have to be accountable. You know what I mean? And we can't not look at ourselves, but we also have to know that the teachers that are in those schools, most of them don't look like the children that they're teaching.
You know, that's a very good point, and I am in agreement with you. And I stand corrected in terms of I did not consider the fact that we are outnumbered in that situation. But I do believe that we do have enough educators who do look like us. And for those who are there, I would like for them to find each other, start communicating across these social media lines, because I can understand there was a time if everything we had to do was pick up a phone, or I have to come fly to where you are and come and see you. But we have the tools, we have tools available to us right now that if we jump in and we strategize and we communicate and we play as a team, I feel like we can turn a lot of this around. The time is now, though, because if we don't do something right now, then while we're sitting back waiting on something to change, they will have changed the game again and again.
Well, the game is actually changing right now as we speak. I won't name the school district, but as you may have just seen, maybe 1 week ago, 5 school board members were just resigned right here in the state of California, not too far from me. They were on a Zoom meeting, said some very controversial things about the curriculum involving the students and their return for school. The necessity or their importance about their return to school, how it just did not matter to the administration. And so when they realized that they were streaming live, they all actually they resigned within 24 hours of being recognized. So we have a very large undertaking to do when it comes to creating a new establishment. And it's a scary undertaking because this is what burned down Black Wall Street. Forgive me for saying that. I had to go there.
And one of the things that I want to add to that is that, again, because we did yesterday, we had a conversation that was just between us, right? Mm-hmm. Today we're having a conversation and it involves our viewers, right? And so one of the things that we want to make sure that that they're hearing from us is that the same public school system that your children is being educated in your neighborhood is a different school system that ours are being educated in. And so when we keep looking, when people who are not here from here, and they're looking at the African American community and they're trying to figure out why they can't figure it out, you need to understand that you know there's this saying, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right?
Right.
And one of the things that what I encourage people to do is whatever shoes you have on that lace up, I want you to bend down, I want you to hold on to them strings, and I want you to stand up. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to know that that is an impossible task. Yes. You cannot stand up holding your bootstraps.
No, you can't.
You have to figure out how to get your feet out of them.
Very impactful statement. I heard something similar from Dr. Martin Luther King years ago. For all of our viewers who are just tuning in or watching us live, we're joined by Dr. Marty Casey and Sister Amelah El-Amin. This is the Black History Month conversation from another perspective. And so we're just getting into the half-hour segment roughly of our show. And we're going to pivot this a little bit and continue some of our questions, if that's okay.
Before we do this, can I offer something? Because you know I'm all about solutions.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I don't want to just throw something out there and we not make a suggestion. I believe that we should be challenging all of our mayors and Board of Education to do a school swap.
I'm sorry?
A school swap. I would like to see for 1 week that we allow the children to switch.
How do we ensure the curriculum is going to be the same once we swap? Yeah,
but that's what we're going to find out.
Right.
That is the see. It's one thing to make assumptions, and it's a whole nother thing to approve, to be able to prove it.
Right.
When you can actually go and witness it and touch it, you can't tell me that it doesn't exist. When I can go and see it with my own eyes, I can experience it, I can touch it. And I'm gonna give you a prime example. I attended 2 different high schools over 30 years ago. I got kicked out of one high school because things were so toxic, and I ran into a very racist teacher and I punched her.
Oh.
So I got expelled for 90 days. And I knew that I had to learn to ungun.
She's an Aquarius. She's an Aquarius. I know we don't do horoscopes and all that, but I'm just saying.
I mean, it only made sense, right?
So I mean, you know, the bottom line is I had to learn to ungun. But this is how I did it. So here I am. I was at a predominantly Black school when that happened. This was a white racist teacher who stepped on my hand. We were in squads in gym, and so we're sitting with legs crossed, and then my hands was off to the side and you know beside me, and she stepped on my hand. Oh. And she didn't say excuse me. She was not paying attention and just crunched my hand. And I looked up and I asked her, I said, whoa, you know, I don't want to call her by name, but I said, hey, did you just stepped on my hand? She says, well, maybe your hands need to be in a different place. I said, you are right about that. And that's when I took my hands and I put them on her. So
to our viewers.
Now, see, we opened it up because you said you had some solutions. You didn't tell us you were going to talk about
the solution, but first I got to tell you I was the problem. Okay,
that's not the solution, Doctor.
That's not a solution.
So here we go. So here I am. I got expelled from that school. Then I went to the next school because I told my mother, if I don't continue to go to school, I'm dropping out. I'm dropping out. My mother said, I can't stay home for 90 days and not graduate on time. If that's the case, I'm dropping out. My mother says, you're not dropping out. That's not an option. So my mother moved us across the city. And then I ended up in another area where it's predominantly white. And when I got to that school, it was almost as if I went from, if I could describe it.
You went to a charter school.
I went from being in the forest, trying to fight my way every day. Now I go and the heavens opened up. The things that was available to the children at this school, I mean, it was like, I felt like, where's my angel wings?
Right.
Because I can fly.
Right.
It was another white teacher. Now I have to tell this. If I want to tell the story, I'm going to tell it right. It was another white teacher who actually was my music teacher. And we're still friends today on Facebook. And she said to me, Marty, I believe that you are going to do some amazing things in life. And the doors of opportunity are going to open for you. But as soon as they open, they're going to close until you change some things that's going on the inside. See, those things she was speaking about was that hurt and that hurt people. See, that white teacher that stepped on my hand, what she didn't realize is that I barely had lunch money. That white teacher that stepped on my hand, what she didn't realize is that my father was an alcoholic and he had been punching on my mother. So what she didn't realize, she triggered me when she disrespected me and stepped on my hand and didn't apologize because I'd already seen too much physical abuse. See, what that white teacher didn't realize is that I grew up in a household with a great grandmother born in 1910 who didn't die until 2003. And she told me what it was like when she couldn't even pay money to go into certain venues because she was Black and they had to go through the back door. What that white teacher didn't realize, I was a Black girl trying to get my education, trying to show up different, trying to be my best, and she oppressed me when she disrespected me.
But she also gave you, as I heard.
Hold on, I'm wrapping up. Stay with me.
Okay.
But then when I went to the other school, where a white teacher was able to see me beyond my circumstances and see through me and see me as a human being and a person who could thrive, who could be Dr. Marty K Casey today. And what she did, she put a mic in my hand and told me to sing. And that is how I became who I am today. So what I say to you, the solution is we have to see these babies in these children for who they are, not for what they've been through. A lot of times we are being disrespected just simply because of where we come from.
Right.
And what we've been through. But when are we going to just see these babies for who they are and love them the same? And that is the type of teachers. So it doesn't matter to me if we happen to have white teachers in the school, because it was a white teacher that saved me. But it was also a white teacher that almost got me lost in the system.
Isn't that interesting? Well, see, Sister Amelah, doesn't that sound, the advice that she was given from the new teacher at the higher ranking school, doesn't that sound slightly like the hadith? It actually comes from the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ said that, you know, the condition of the ummah will not change until the ummah changes the condition of their heart, right? And so may Allah make this all easy for us all, for all of us, because I'm still learning this as myself. You know, Dr. Marty, you're talking about the actions that have been perpetuated. I'm sorry?
Before we move on, Brother Khaleel.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just want, again, we have to remember that this is a conversation that we're having and there's people listening. And so when we talk about solutions and we talk about how to interact with each other, that's the same thing we have to do as adults.
Right.
That we have to not.
And by the way, don't worry. There's an entire segment that we have for the solutions talk that I've already prepared.
Okay, well, I just wanted to.
We're not going to skip and leave things
right
for you all.
I got you. I just wanted to take her solution into the adult. That when we see that when non-Black people see Black people and they're looking at what's this and why are they acting like that, know that there is a history that Dr. Casey just described.
Yes.
That there's a whole lot going on inside. So when people say angry Black woman, you need to understand that is she really just an angry Black woman, or is she a hurt Black woman that has to keep showing up no matter what? If you see a Black man and he just seems like he's so aggressive, you have to understand that he's aggressive because if he's not, he's gonna get stepped on. In this society, maybe not by you, but how does he know for sure? So that we have that same understanding and that compassion when we're dealing, and we understand that you don't understand what we've been through because you haven't been through it. And I don't understand what you've been through. And he's over here turning around. He's like, okay, you're done. We're going to be in that segment.
No. I apologize. This is probably one of my most interrupted segments by mistake today because I have to charge my phone. Let's go back to the green screen here. My apologies.
I just let mine die. No, I'm joking.
You a mess.
It was like, okay, am I going to get up and go get a charger? And I'm like, well, my computer don't need to be charged.
Unfortunately, I don't have a second set of hands that are past the age of 5. So you know, quite honestly, this is what it is. You know, if I ask him to go and get it, we might get a banana instead.
It's okay. You know, we are real people, and I believe that's what this whole segment is about today.
Absolutely. And I thank you. I thank you so much for your patience because again, this is probably one of my most scattered and interrupted segments that I've done. And so I do thank you very much for your patience. And don't let me stop you because you were speaking before I turned the camera. So
no. I take everything as we plan and God is the best planner. And Lord knows I can go take you down a rabbit hole. So don't stop me.
So can I. I guess that's why somehow I've become moderator. I have the tendency to take things down a rabbit hole. Let's ask a question here. You know, in terms of progress versus, you know, how do we continue the positive momentum progress? There's this rumor that I have to go there. There's this rumor that Rush Limbaugh is coming out with this holiday to be celebrated as one of the highest celebrated activists in radio history. And this is supposed to be celebrated going forward January 12th, which is right in that cusp of Emancipation Proclamation and Black History Month kicking off. Is this 2 steps back in progress for us?
For who? Which side of the fence you talking about?
Which us?
Well, how many us's are there in the category of Black History Month? I mean, is this two steps back for us?
I'm asking, is that 2 steps back as a country, us, the U.S., or is that back?
Well, no, I mean, obviously, we can't talk about the Africans in other countries. We would have to keep it all here at home. So for us here who have struggled through this, through the civil impact of everything that it's been, is this 2 steps back as we see such an important holiday, such an important month? We only get 1 month out of the year. So is this 2 steps back for us to see another holiday implanted and put right on top of our only celebratory time?
So let's back up. Number one, when I said us, and I said U.S., I meant as a country, I meant this country, the United States. Is that a step back for us as the United States, or us as a people? And so because we as a people, we're not asking for this holiday. You know what I mean? So whoever's asking for this holiday, we have to ask them: are you taking 2 steps back? Or are you taking 2 steps further?
I never looked at it like that before. I don't think anybody really asked for it, but it is necessary. Wouldn't you agree that it's necessary to have a day that celebrates, at least a month that celebrates our struggle and who we are in terms of?
No. We're talking about that holiday that we're talking about that's going to be implemented. Yes, on the 4th of January. Okay. That's what I'm speaking of. Because what we're really talking about, Black History Month, is after January. That's in February. Let's talk about Martin Luther King Day. And of all the days, I mean, what is the, and I don't know, so forgive me, so you guys can inform me. What is the significance of that day being on January 12th? Why is it January? Is that his birthday?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm not quite certain. If I were
that he died in Black History Month. I thought that was interesting.
That's what bothered me. I would like to say that there's no significance other than just trying to make sure that we're not so significant, but I don't want to go there. So
again, is that 2 steps back for us, or is that 2 steps back for our country?
I think that's actually a really good question, the way you formatted it. I would honor both from either perspective. Is it 2 steps back for us, and is it 2 steps back for our country?
To me, it feels a lot like when we were speaking about the statues that need to be removed. I feel like we continue to celebrate and elevate those who are bringing harm to groups of people that don't look or operate or sound like other groups of people. And so, in other words, Dr. King stood for all. Now, there may have been some that didn't choose Dr. King, but he never, to my knowledge in history, did he say that he wasn't trying to bring us all together. So why would we give someone a holiday that is limiting who they support in America, period? Right. If you are, when it goes back to your original question of, are we being accepted? Obviously we not, because if they don't count us in the equation, then it makes sense for them to give him a holiday on January 12th because they're not considering us anyway. But when we look at, if they in fact say, you can't say that in the same breath, we're inclusive of you, and so yet we want to give him a holiday. You couldn't possibly, because he wasn't inclusive of us at all.
Right.
Well,
it's January 12th. His birthday is January 12th.
Is it?
It is. Google.
Well, do we have the power to change the celebratory date by chance? I mean, it's let's put it way out somewhere else.
Right.
But no, I don't feel like that's a date that we should have. And I think again, we continue to fight for the wrong, or ask for and protest for the wrong things. We really.
I don't know. You said it very well the other night. You said that we've had to continue to knock down doors for everything that we've needed, and and this is just the way that it is for us. I mean, so.
No. Now, when I said that this time, when I've said us, I meant us as America.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is us as America.
Got it. I need to redefine the us in my understanding tonight.
That's why
getting lost enough. Is it us?
That's why I asked.
No,
that's why
the other us.
But no, I am saying that with everything that we have going on right now, and I won't even mention the racist stuff. I'm gonna go just with COVID-19.
Yeah.
You really want to talk about Rush Limbaugh getting a holiday, and we have over 500,000 people deceased from COVID-19?
Right.
That is not anything that's not anything to
not
me.
A priority.
It's not a priority.
It's really not a priority.
It's not.
But one thing I want to add to what Dr. Marty said is this, in regards to that, is Martin Luther King was inclusive of everyone.
Of everyone.
And this man was not. And so what is the difference between giving him a holiday when he was clearly not, he was not about everyone, than having a statue or a monument of these people who were not inclusive of everyone? What's the difference? It's like, okay, we're going to knock down some statues, but then we're going to give somebody that represented the same thing that the statues did a whole holiday, not a half of a holiday, a whole holiday.
I don't know if to get speechless, but again, another impactful statement that you've made, and you're absolutely right about that. There's absolute truth in that. Rationale would say, if we hate someone because they hate us, are we better than they are? Or, I really don't think so.
I don't think we should hate them. But what our Quran says is, if someone does you an injustice, you have a right to do them an equal injustice. Now, it is better for you to be forgiven.
Yes.
It is better for you to be the best in conduct. But if you slap me, I have every right to slap you back.
I think Dr. Marty already read that verse. I don't know. It sounds like she read that verse early on and somewhere between school transition 1 and 2.
And see, because the scriptures from God is the same. See?
Yes. And so, this segment has been so amazing. And I do believe that we're coming up on time. And what I want to do, because we have not been able to bite into everything. There's so much that I was hoping to talk about.
It's an elephant. It's an elephant. We can't.
One bite at a time.
You really can't. You can't do it all at one time. It's too much.
Bite at a time.
One bite at a time. And so while we bring things to a head for everyone at home, for all of our listeners, and for the element of the conversation that we've all wanted to talk about so much, the solution portions, what I'd like to ask is that, in terms of expectations around bridging the gap, Sister Amelah, tell us, what are your expectations when it comes to Moed going forward to bridge that gap? And I think Moed might be that influence, because it's always food or music, right? Where we can at least get them into our living room and start teaching them who we are. What is the next step for Moed Foundation to bridge the gap?
What is to bridge the gap? I'm going to be honest. Bridging the gap is a bigger task. One of the things, though, is that Dr. Marty spoke to it earlier, and it's like, what are we going to do for ourselves, right? And so, Eating Rights is our Moed is an organization that is geared towards restoring what is missing in our community. And Eating Rights is working towards the reality that eating is a right and not a luxury, And so, it's hard to get someone to listen when they're hungry, right? It's hard for anyone to even have the energy to move forward when they're hungry. And so part of, and then our elders, we have to take care of our elders, and so many of our elders, because of the society that we live in individual, they as Westerners and as African American, this independence is important in our community. To be dependent says that you didn't do something right. And so we have to support them in their independence, And so moving forward, that's what Moed is doing now. This conversation says I got to do something else besides eating rice.
This conversation has been very impactful. And as Dr. Marty said, well, no, it was you who said it's an elephant, right? I wish that we did have more time to wrap it all up in the segment, because for those who are at home, who have finally had some exposure to some of these hot button points for the first time, it would be such a blessing to have everybody really understand and get that full perspective on everything that we've shared behind the scenes. Dr. Marty, solutions going forward to help bridge the gap for the stigma that holds us all in this negative funk of not who we are, but what we are.
Yeah, I believe for me, when I had an opportunity to be exposed to some things, I became a very well-rounded person. And that happened because I'm an activist, which is a professional actress / activist. And so that happened for me when I had an opportunity to go on tour. And I'm traveling from city to city. I got outside of my comfort zone, outside of my own backyard and my community. And it opened up my lens and my mind to seeing exactly how others live and how they worship and how they entertain. And I really feel like part of the issue that we're having, even as Blacks and whites, even though we see each other every day, but we're still, it's almost like we've been social distancing even before COVID. And we still have not taken that time to really, really get to know each other in our culture so that we can understand it, to respect it. And even if we choose not to partake in it, in other words, I can sit at the table with you. I don't necessarily have to break bread per se, but I should be welcome to sit at the table. At least you are welcome to come and sit at my table. Now, if you want to go ahead and eat something, by all means, help yourself. But if what I've cooked is not to your liking, then don't disrespect my table. That's all I'm asking. So we have to build those opportunities to bring us into the fold together. Can you picture some tours happening within our own cities again, where we're swapping those communities and we're taking these tours together. We're actually sitting on the bus and not in a divided way as we once had to. When Rosa Parks had to teach us a lesson to say that she paid the same fare and she gets to sit in on this, but she won. Can you imagine if we actually intentionally flip that and we get on the bus together and we sit Black and white in these and we go into these communities and you have your Black and white partners partnered up. And when we get to the Black community, the Black man and woman is showing their white man and woman partner, this is where we eat. This is our favorite spot. This Chinese, they had nothing until you tasted this. And let's order this. Can you imagine if we shared those moments and those experiences together? And then when we go to the white neighborhood, they get a chance to do the same thing. Oh, don't you worry. You're safe today. You're with me. Come on in. Have a seat. Oh, my friend Joe. And I mean, can you
know what? I've always kind of thought about that, especially between the churches and the local mosque. I've always imagined that we would have a kind of like a mixed softball team or a basketball team, or, we would do events at the church, potlucks. They would do events at the mosque. You talked about the school swap. And so when it comes to stepping on the other side and getting out of your comfort zone, would you wear hijab for 24 hours?
So this is the thing. Instead of having a Rush Limbaugh day, I think that's a day we need to be creating. That's a week we need to be creating. Even if we choose to do it in a week of Black history and we take the last week of Black history and we say, this is what we are going to create as a people and we want you to come and participate. I spoke today at via Zoom at a school with children. I'm going to try to make this quick. And it was myself, it was a Black mayor, and it was a Black lieutenant. We were the panel. And we were speaking to two classrooms of children that were all white and their teachers were white. But they invited us in for Black history. Of course, I'm going to go. And I said yes, because I was excited. Because they do need to know about our history.
Yes.
I got a phone call as I was driving back from Tennessee to get here to be home in time. I received a phone call. On the other end is a white lady. Hello, Dr. Marty? I said, yes, this is Dr. Marty. Oh my God, it's Dr. Marty. And I'm thinking, who's this? And so he says, hi, I'm so-and-so, so-and-so. My son just came home and was so excited to tell me that you came into his classroom today and he met you and he wanted me to Google you. And I just looked up and seen all these things that you're doing. And Dr. Marty, I would love to have a meeting with you and sit down with you for da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
Let me tell you, I had to fight back the tears of joy. Because what happened is that even through Zoom, I wasn't even in the same room to touch that little boy, but I touched him in his heart so much that he went home and he spreaded that same love and energy to his mother, who then looked me up, called me, and then invited me to the table to come and eat. Do you understand? When we give them an experience of who we are, we can shift and change the narrative.
You're
That's
absolutely
right. That's
about
right.
that.
And what's
So-
interesting is that, Dr. Marty, you were in an assembly this morning, and so was I, for one of the schools here that is predominantly Arab and immigrant, and it was for Black History. And I didn't get a phone call, but I feel like that my presentation was well received. And again, I just want to speak to our audience at home, and which, since most of the people that are listening to this is Muslim, and is that that's another solution that we can do in our community, that we come together and that you come to the neighborhood, not just to feed the hungry, not just to pass out hygiene kits, but you come and you really see how your Muslim African-American brothers and sisters are living, so that you can have a better understanding what they're going through. Because when you live in certain places, in certain cities, it's a different experience.
You're right. I think this is important why we should engage with them more. In fact, because what comes to my mind as you say that is that, do people oftentimes feel like the mosque has an open door policy? No. Non-Muslim people oftentimes pass a mosque and they go, oh, I'm not welcome there. And I think the perception might be the same for some white people who are questioning rolling through a predominantly Black neighborhood. Is there going to be an open door? Is there a welcome? So we have to definitely engage with them more on a level where we invite them as a people.
We have to create that moment. And you know what? Now, Khaleel, on your show, you have the power to say, let's do that. Right. Let's announce that right now. Let's choose a day that we can try this. Let's pull some of our Black brothers and sisters and Muslim brothers and sisters and our white brothers and sisters together, and let's do this community culture swap.
I think you're absolutely right.
Our platforms to get the word out. First, we have to have awareness, create it, get the word out, and then participate to do it. But as long as we continue to have conversations and those conversations won't add up to the action, we will continue to have these conversations. So I gave you the solution, my brother. You have the platform to speak it and make it so.
Inshallah. You're absolutely right about that. Please, Sister Amelah.
No, just simply what was said earlier. And that we know one of the things that we've talked about, COVID has changed a lot of things, but truly COVID happened by the permission of our Creator, right? And one of the things that we have learned during COVID is how much we can come together and not leave our living rooms. We can have, she had an assembly and I had an assembly. They were both virtual, and so we can use this technology. It's before us, and we've been ignoring it. I mean, somebody will ask me to go to a meeting after all this is over, and I'm going to be saying, is it going to be on Zoom? Because it allows us to come together without having to, find parking and do this and do that. And so her solution can happen right in the same forum or on a Zoom forum or on a different forum, because some people don't like Zoom and some people like WebEx, and however, but it's doable. You know what I mean?
Lights definitely came on when Dr. Marty said it. It's a brilliant idea. And I think that, in terms of the idea of engaging with people more, we should have social forums, and we invite into these conversations to where we, even extend this conversation more We need to have more visibility around this conversation. Any final thoughts from the either two of you? Something that you'd love to plug, cover, or something that we didn't get into this segment this evening?
I would like to give this hadith. And it is our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him, said, if you see an injustice, change it with your hand.
Yes.
And if you're unable to do so, change it with your tongue, which is your voice. And if you're unable to do so, feel bad about it in your heart. You know, and one of my sisters said to me recently that she was listening to a talk, and when it says change it with your hand, it doesn't say if you want to. It says change it. And if you're unable to, then use your voice. So we know that we have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to, when we see things, is to do something about it. And so Dr. Casey has challenged us.
She absolutely has. And I hope that we can continue another segment in the future to where we're proving out to hold up to what we're saying today, because it is important. And I know that you as community leaders and advocates, inshallah, we will join each other again and we will show the efforts forward and inshallah make better connections. I can't thank you both enough for joining us this evening. For everyone at home, this has been a wonderful segment of Bay Muslim Media. I hope you've enjoyed the entire show. We've covered a very controversial, very diverse group of questions. We've again been joined by Dr. Marty Casey and Sister Amelah El-Amin. Sisters, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone at home, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and may the peace that only God can give be upon you all.
Amen.
And I didn't finish the hadith, so forgive me. There's a last part to the hadith, but we're going to go ahead.
My apologies. Thank you.
Blessings.
No.
Are we going
to you, Dr. Marty? I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Same here. You know, do we have each other's information? We do. We have each other's information. I will be reaching out.
Yes, please do.
You know, I would like to share your information with my sister who was with me yesterday. When I say she fell in love with you, just like you said, your mom enjoyed me. My sister enjoyed you so much. I said, I'm going to ask her today and make sure that I can share her information.
I appreciate you asking. And yes, you can.
Thank you. Blessings.
All right. Blessings to you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.